What in the world was that?
Well, Zach, I actually just finished crushing some chicken parm, and I am freaking ready to rock and roll.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy Sunday, happy morning after to all of you. We are joined, as we are every Sunday, by Montgomery radio vet Darrell Dapprich. Darrell, Auburn goes to 1-0 in SEC play, a 17-14 overtime win against Missouri, but man, it didn't really feel like a win. One of the craziest games I've ever seen.
Yeah, you know, we've watched a lot of football, I'm sure, over the years, you and I, and we've heard all the broadcasting cliches that there are. And one of the ones that broadcasters love to use is, man, it's a shame somebody has to lose this game. It's a shame somebody's going to, you know, I felt like the flip side of that, it's a shame somebody had to win that game. And it got me, I had Frisky Whiskey on speed dial, found out they didn't deliver to Montgomery. That was a little disappointing because of having to sit through and watch that game. Wanted to use one of your sponsors.
Sure.
But it was very, very difficult to watch. I felt like either team did not want to do anything to win the game. No one grabbed the game and took it by the horns and said, okay, we're going to win. It's like both teams were trying to find ways with ineptitude to lose, with stupid plays, execution poor, curious play calling.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, another strange play in Jordan Hare to add to the lore. It felt like, and I saw someone else tweet this out on Twitter, and I didn't want to act like I stole this because I felt this during the game. When that game was over and I was done watching that Auburn game, it felt like the Jacksonville State game. It felt like a loss that was a win, that was a win. It just, you come away with that feeling.
Yeah.
That year, though, there seemed to be hope. Right after that, you thought, well, maybe Auburn can turn it around. There's not a coaching cloud hanging over. But that's what it felt like to me. It didn't feel like, I know it's a win, it's an SEC win, but it just did not feel that way at all.
Yeah, and I guess the difference is every Auburn fan wanted to escape that, but there's a large part of it, of the Auburn fan base, which surprises me a little bit. It's just like, no, let's get this over with. And I think that's a bad angle, and we'll touch more on that in a second. But
yeah, I do want to say something about that. We'll come back to that.
Sure. Yeah. But, you know, as far as just the development of the last few minutes of the game or of regulation, then into overtime, I mean, the Auburn offense finally kind of gets something going in that last drive of regulation, and it's 4th and 1, and it's like, okay, great, we're going to do this. And then just the amount of penetration that the Missouri defensive line was able to get and stop Tank in the backfield, then all of a sudden Auburn's defense has been shut down for the entire second half. Like, they've just been incredible. And Missouri goes down the field, and it's like, oh my goodness gracious, the quarterback centering up the field goal attempt for their really, really good, the thicker kicker. That is a
good
big
Lord.
boy.
That dude, I thought he was a center. I wanted him to come over and play center for Auburn.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, obviously he missed it. Overtime happens, and it's like, it looked like Robby threw a pick, and then he didn't. And then obviously, Missouri just gives the ball away at like the 6-inch line. I mean, just a crazy, crazy chain of events. And Auburn kind of slipped away opportunity after opportunity after opportunity and eventually won. But it didn't really feel like any of those were well-deserved. Like, it was just the flukiest thing. Like, it was
They were gifts. They were gifts. They were gifted. Here's the thing. Let's go back to the drive that where Auburn should have been setting up for a field goal to take the lead. Okay, so 4th and 1. I don't blame Bryan Harsin for going for it at all and not kicking the field goal there. I think that was a good move. However, when your offensive line, I've watched a lot of football, a lot of Auburn football. It's the poorest offensive line I think I've ever seen. I mean, they're getting in the backfield when the ball's getting handed off, so into Hunter or Bigsby. So this is a perfect example of the coaching staff not customizing or changing the game plan to suit the inadequacies or the inequities or the lack of things you do well to a play call, right? When Ashford snuck the ball early in the first half and he almost snuck through, they get the first down. Why not go right back to that? Why do you try to give the ball to somebody 3 yards in the backfield when your offensive line's getting blown up all day? That's the example of the head-scratching coaching decisions. What you have on the field, your strengths and your weaknesses, that's what you coach to. He did not put them in a position to succeed at all in that situation.
Darrell, I'm going to push back against that just a little bit. 3 of 4 on fourth down of the night. Obviously, we're all going to talk about the most important one at the end. But also, if that would have happened, if they would have called the Robby sneak again and he didn't get it, what would we all be saying? We would all be saying, how do you not give it to Tank Bigsby in that situation? That's what we said against South Carolina last year. That's what we said in a lot of key situations last year. And there were multiple times where they gave it a Tank in 4th and short, and it's like, I mean, that's what we've been asking for. That's what we've been asking for. I don't
have a problem with them pitching it to him, but that slow, delayed turnaround, wait till tomorrow morning to hand it to him crap doesn't work. And even Robert Griffin III, who I think is a not a very good announcer, made a great point and said, if you do this, if you go for it on 4th and 1, the way the offensive line's getting blown up, I get it, give it to Tank. But again, example of how you get it to Tank is important. Just a little flip, a toss sweep, and get a guard out in front, a tight end out in front to give him a chance. But that's not giving him a chance. It's the same kind of play they ran against Alabama last year when they needed the 1 yard, and they turned around, and it was slow as Christmas before they gave Bigsby the ball, and he got blown up in the backfield. Same thing. And they did it. So I don't have a problem with going for it. I have a problem with the selection of the particular play call. I get it. Everyone screams, give it to Tank, but maybe give it to him in a different situation or a different format than that.
And then as far as choosing to not go with Anders in that situation, are you okay with that?
Well, I mean, I think from a coaching staff standpoint, it's the most important thing you can do is get a pulse of your team and know where your players are at. And maybe they just didn't feel like he was very confident after missing not 1, but 2 kicks before halftime after Auburn ran a really good 35-second drill. I mean, say all you want about a lot of things that went wrong today, but that was executed. Give Robby Ashford a lot of credit. Gets him in great position to get points to go in at halftime. Could be a 10-point swing because you get the ball to start the second half, and he misses both kicks. So maybe they felt like his psyche was a little bit bruised. And then think about it. In overtime, he missed the first kick, if not for the offsides. So he really technically missed 3 kicks in a row before he hit the 39-yarder.
That's true. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. All right, let's talk about some of the positives, some guys that stood out.
Yes.
In just a moment, Darrell, real quick, we got to tell our friends about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best place to go when you're trying to hire talent. Look, these days, every potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's so easy to make a job posting at LinkedIn, and then once you have the job posting up, you can add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Darrell, there were moments where Coy Moore was the player that I thought he would be ever since he committed to be here.
Yes.
You saw that pop. You saw him get in space. And you saw him at times look like the most athletic player on the field. And that's what we all hoped for. That's why I predicted Coy Moore would lead Auburn in receiving yards this season, was because of did he have 4 catches? He had, let's see, he either had 3 or 4. He had
4 for 74. Yeah.
Yep, including one that was for 24 yards. That was pretty big. So Yeah, that to me was the guy that's like, okay, if this offense is going to take that next step, there needs to be help on the receiving end of things, and maybe Coy Moore took a step today.
I saw 3 big plays from him. Well, two and a third. The one play that he fell after the 9-yard gain would have went for about 30 yards, so that was a nice play, a nice setup. Yeah. The back shoulder throw that he made was clutch on the sidelines, was a nice athletic play. And then the play where it looked like he was
by Robby too, by the way.
Yeah, it really was. Great placement by Robby. And then the play where it looked like it was going to be a screen pass and then a throwback screen where Coy Moore was going to throw it, and then he didn't. He ran with it in reversed field and had a nice long run there. He did look explosive. And that's the thing that I wanted to mention, because a lot of times when things go south like they do right now, and there's like a black cloud over this program, and you're talking about coaching decisions and coaching changes, what gets lost in all that is how hard these kids, some of these particular kids, played. And I want to give guys like Derick Hall and Robby Ashford and Coy Moore and Leota and Caden Bridges, some of these guys, all the credit in the world for not quitting, playing hard, representing Auburn. I mean, Robby Ashford goes into the tent after throwing a block to try to spring Coy Moore, and he comes back out and begs Harsin to go back in. Caden Bridges doesn't give up on the overtime run, and because he trails the play, he recovers the fumble. These kids aren't quitting. They're playing hard. They're playing for Auburn, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. They deserve to be commended.
Yeah, we talked all offseason about Harsin's culture and, teams believing in themselves and all that. I think you are seeing that. It's just I think the scheme stinks, and I think your offensive line stinks. But like as far as guys wanting to win and do the extra stuff, I do think you're seeing that.
Yeah, I think you can see a team. Just because a team is close and really cares for each other doesn't mean that's a culture or indicative of something the coach necessarily does, right? I mean, sometimes it is, but sometimes you can still be close and love each other as teammates and play for each other. And that environment or that culture is not precipitated from the top down. They really have grown together over the last couple of years and have been through this together. And I do think this is a close team that isn't going to give up on one another.
I'm there with you, man. I'm there with you. So, no, I'm glad you shouted some of those guys out. And even like they were talking about, take Bigsby giving the beats away to the team, and he was just excited that he was able to do that for everybody. Like, I think that's cool. All right. Holden Geriner. I thought he would be more impressive than he was. Once again, it's not his fault. Pressure is just all over the place when it comes to, pass protection, but he looked less comfortable than I expected him to in his debut.
Yeah, I did too. I thought we heard a lot of good things about him, and I thought he was going to come in and look a little more poised. But again, could be an example of what kind of situations and positions the coaching staff put him in. You'd like to see them call some plays. I guess that if you run a slant in Jordan Hare, they feel like they're going to arrest you or something. I don't know what it is. I watch opposing teams run it. I watch other football teams run it, and I'm going with a freshman quarterback that needs a 2-step drop, bam, get it out. That's a perfect play to run for a kid that's coming in on his first series. Auburn won't run it. They ran the screen pass, but other than that, quick hitters get the ball out. They did him no favors with the play calling.
Yeah, as soon as Auburn's game was over, I sat in silence for about 15 minutes trying to comprehend what just happened. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm putting up some stories. I'm for auburndaily.com. I'm gonna have Tennessee, Florida going in the background. And it's just, you see what Heupel's done with that team. It's year 2 for them too. And it's like, you see what they're doing in year 2 and you see what we're doing in year 2. And it's just like not the same thing at all. And I saw Auburn people tweeting about it. I was like, how are other teams getting guys this open? Because we haven't been able to figure it out. And it's just so frustrating because guys like Coy Moore and guys like Javarius Johnson and guys like Malcolm Johnson Jr. and Jedrick Jackson and John Samuel Shanker, like, these guys are just as talented as the receivers on these other high-powered offenses. It's just the scheme is hurting our guys, and
a quarterback sometimes too. Hooker is on the elite side. Sure. He wasn't at Virginia Tech, but give Heupel credit.
Wide open.
They are wide open, and I think that goes back to assessing your needs. I want to ask you this question.
Okay.
I keep hearing about how poor the offensive line play is, and I agree. And I keep hearing, Harsin's to blame for not actively pursuing some guys in the portal in the offseason, riding or dying with the guys he had. Remember, there are probably some guys I feel like that would have come to Auburn and played offensive line, but saw 6 or 7 dudes coming back that were 9-year seniors, including the COVID year, and said, I'm not going to get any playing time there.
Right.
Well, at what point do you say these guys just aren't getting it done, and you tell a guy from the portal, you're going to come in here and compete and probably win the job? And what point do you realize that maybe Nick Brahms, look, I get it. Maybe nobody knew that he was hurt and couldn't go. But come on, you have to have a pretty good idea with his health history that there may have been an issue, and you don't try to go get a center just for an insurance policy. Makes no sense.
I'm there with you, man. I'm there with you. And I've played the what if game. And to answer your question, player retention and player acquisition is the head coach's job. He gets credit for it when it goes well, even though other people help. And if other people don't get him on, he takes the punches with it. Like that is the part of the job of you being the head coach. As far as like the offensive line itself, it is an interesting thing to think about. Like if Nick Brahms was there, how much better would it be? Because I think the tackles are better than it was a year ago. Like I think Zaire is fine. I don't really notice him, which is exactly what you want from your left tackle. Troxel whiffed on some stuff. Just watching it live, he didn't look as crisp as he has in the past few weeks. But yeah, the interior stuff is just so bad. And I think a lot of what Harsin wants to do is under center, and you can't be successful under center if you can't get an interior push, because you don't want defensive tackles that close to your quarterback. So I do wonder how much it would help if Nick Brahms was there, but I'm with you. It's like, that can't be the end all be all. Like you're telling me if you added Nick Brahms, it would totally change the offense. Like I'm not buying that. But
no, I'm not either.
I do think it would help.
But he was the signal caller, the offensive line leader. But I guess my point goes back to when all this happened in February with Harsin, and he really didn't get anybody from a signing class the second signing day, and you start to pursue people in the portal. He really felt like, I'm just going to go with the 7 or 8 guys I have because they're going to be experienced. I had a lot of guys with a lot of playing time. How do you not know, really? I mean, how do you not know in April that Nick Brahms is not 100%? He had to have had some sort of health issues in April. What are you just crossing your fingers and hoping he's better by September? Yeah, that's a poor decision by a coach to do that.
Yep. He had surgery before the bowl game, didn't participate in spring. It's like, how do you not prepare for life without him? And I'm just not buying the whole, like, you can't pitch things to, guys that are running out of eligibility that you already have a solid position group, because they went out and got, Marcus Bragg. They made the pitch to him, and he's actually looked pretty good in his limited playing time. Or Morris Joseph, and it's like, those guys are done after this year, and they're not starters, they're role players. So, like, you're telling me you couldn't make that pitch to offensive linemen and get them on campus? I'm not buying that, but we'll see. So as far as concerns moving forward, Darrell, we talked about this a little bit throughout the week, and I had a crossover recorded with Locked On Missouri's host, but the TJ news happened, and then it wasn't relevant anymore, so I couldn't air it. But a big thing that we talked about was like Missouri's inability to stop the run, and it's just really concerning to me that Auburn had 1.8 yards per carry on the ground, 45 carries for 82 yards. And you had 45 carries, and the longest one was a 14-yard run. That is awful.
That's almost unbelievable to me. I had to go back and look at it twice. And when I saw things like that being posted on social media about yards per carry, yards per play, it just, I thought, surely not. And then you go back and you look at what the total stats were and how many yards they rushed for. And it's just, every play seems to be blown up. The only thing that seemed to work to me from a running standpoint was improvised plays that broke down. I think Robby did a good job on some of those. He also did some things where he took, stepped out of bounds 3 or 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage that he'll learn. But everything is Missouri's running backs seem to be getting pushed, seem to be falling forward when, after contact. Auburn seemed to be going sideways or backwards. And at this point in 2 years of somebody's tenure, with offensive linemen that have played forever and a back that was supposed to be one of the best backs in the SEC, it's mind-boggling to me. There's no other explanation for that except schematics and how they're scheming and play calling, because it can't be execution if you're not even having a chance before the play starts. I mean, and the yards per play are indicative of that. No big plays, no splash plays, taking the top off down the field. I mean, I was so excited early on. I take that back. I guess there was a slant thrown on that first drive, right, to Amari Kelly.
The first two drives looked really good.
I got very excited. I saw a sack, a turnover, and a ball thrown to Cam Brown, and I thought we were in the end times. I said, this can't be happening right now.
And a devotion, almost a stubborn devotion to the run game early.
Yeah. I mean, it reminded me so much of the Gus years where he just said, I'm going to run it down your throat. And you're like, okay, they know what their horse they have to ride to win this game is. Yeah. And Missouri's off defensive line is porous against Abilene Christian. They got no pressure. They got the ball run on them. So Auburn, and then Missouri adjusted, and Auburn didn't adjust. No. And so it was amazing how that completely switched.
Yeah, I do think they tried to adjust. It just nothing worked. I mean, they tried throwing it more. They tried going back to the running game. They tried making everything go through Tank again, and it just, to their credit, I think they tried. In the past, I don't think we could say that, but I do think they actually tried there. But yeah, Tank Bigsby 2.3 yards a touch. That's sad. That's very, very sad. Auburn had under 220 total yards. I think it was 217. Yeah, 217 total yards. That is the first time it's been under 220 yards in a win, lowest in a win since Auburn beat Nebraska in 2006.
And that yards per play was 3.18, I think, that year too. That was the lowest yards per play in a win and lowest total yards. And I remember watching that Cotton Bowl and having that same kind of feeling that I did watching this game, except there seemed to be hope. And, you're going for a 10-win season, and you've got Brandon Cox at quarterback. So it's just amazing how different years. But you're right. I mean, the offensive ineptitude and to still win, because guess what? Turnovers, and they did cut down on the penalties.
Yeah.
The turnovers were the difference in that game, because without that second interception, Auburn doesn't score that touchdown and go up 14-0. You're talking about a different game. And, of course, without that fumble, the game's either tied or over in overtime. So, yeah, turnovers, it's pretty easy to point to that and say, with that offensive ineptitude, how did they win the game? That's what we kept talking about last week, about being on the turnover side, positive side of the ledger. That's a case where turnovers won you the game.
All right, Darrell, coming up in just a second, I want to talk about what do we do moving forward? What does the end of the Bryan Harsin era look like? All right, here on Locked On Auburn. I want to encourage you to join the Locked On Auburn Discord. If you were not in there, you missed out on a wild few hours, really an entire day of craziness in the Locked On Auburn Discord. So check it out. It's in the episode description down below, or in your the episode show notes, depending on how you're consuming this show. It's free. Just click the link. Darrell, part of me, I mean, I was kind of prepping for it. I didn't think Auburn was going to win this game, and I was kind of prepping for it to happen yesterday on Saturday. And I don't think you can fire him right now after a loss. I think you got to wait. I think you have to wait till either you lose to LSU or you lose in Athens, or what probably makes the most sense from a logistics standpoint is you wait till the bye week.
Well, this is going to be a really weird statement. I'm going to agree with you that you're right, but disagree with the premise. What you're saying is factual and is going to come to fruition. That they're not going to fire somebody, in my opinion, after a win. But I don't think that has to be in the mindset. I disagree with that mindset. I think you look at trajectory of a program, you look at where a program is, you look at a win that absolutely feels like a loss, and what happened there. A win, they talk about how it covers up a multitude of sins. Not in this case, it didn't. And so I want to go back to something we talked about early on in the program, and that was that feeling of, oh, I'd rather just go ahead and get this over with. And people that are Auburn people kind of feeling like they were pulling for Auburn to lose. I'm not judging people that do that. Everyone has their own particular way to be a fan and have fandom. I'm just not wired that way. And when the ball went through the end zone and Caden Bridges fell on it, there was a part of me that was happy for those kids and to get the W. And I don't like Drinkwitz either. I got tired of his little sideline antics crap too. So I was glad to see him go down. But
that's cool. No, I get.
But that. And again, I'm not trying to be judgmental about the people that are like, hey, I don't think it matters at this point. That ship has sailed. He's a dead man walking.
He's gone.
And so people talking about all these national media heads and all these writers talking about coaching for his job is the biggest misnomer. His job is done. What pressure is on Bryan Harsin right now? What does he have to lose by losing that job? Because of the buyout, nothing. In fact, if he loses his job now rather than in December, he's $3 million richer. So why is he coaching with any pressure? He knows that ship has sailed. Yeah. He knows he's a dead man walking. From his body language, he wants to be anywhere else than there. So there's no pressure on Bryan Harsin. He's not coaching for his job. That job's gone.
Yep. I'm there with you. My reaction when the fumble happened and Auburn jumped on it in the end zone was I was pumped for these kids because they're still working their tails off. And so these are the guys that are putting the blood, sweat, and tears in. We're just kind of supposedly cheering for them. I'm cheering for them. I hope they win.
I think they deserve – look, he's gone anyway. If it was a case of somebody saying, okay, if he loses the game, he's gone, I get that. But it doesn't. He's gone anyway. So why don't you win as many games as you can before he goes out the door for these kids, right? Or maybe even luck up and have another coach him in the bowl game. I don't see that happening. You got to get 3 more wins. You never know. But who's to say that they get lucky down the stretch and win a few more games for these kids, and then somebody else gets to reward that payoff with a bowl? That's what I want to see. It doesn't matter. His ship has sailed.
Yeah, you want 6 wins because you want the extra practice time for the bowl games. Like, yes. Don't say that the bowls don't matter because if Auburn goes to a bowl, it's probably not going to be a big one because 6 or 7 wins is the ceiling, I think, at this point. But you want to be able, if you're a Holden Geriner fan and you think he's the future, like you get more practices with him at quarterback, like all of that is extremely, extremely important. Gives, whoever's coming in the chance to watch more of this team and get ready and more prepared for running a spring practice a few months after that. So don't think like, oh yeah, if you just hate Bryan Harsin, don't think it's best for Auburn to go 3-9 because that is not true. Like that is incorrect. And so he's gone no matter what. I firmly believe. So
win as many as you can with him going out the door, even if it's with an interim. I don't care. Even if he wins, if he lucks up and beats LSU next week and then gets blasted by Georgia and something happens in a bye week. Okay, well then Auburn's sitting at 4 wins, and then an interim coach comes in to try to scratch 2. Look, who could really, really benefit from an extra 3 weeks of bowl practice? How about that wide receiver room, who I think's got a lot of talent, is being underutilized, has some good young players, and could really, really benefit from an extra 3 weeks of a bowl practice.
I'm there with you, man. I'm there with you. I think there's every position group out there could. And it'll be fun to see what happens with the offensive line because a lot of the older guys may opt out for the bowl game. So you can get some new guys in there just to see what happens.
That may be a blessing in disguise, brother.
Yeah, maybe so.
We don't know, but it'd be nice to see, right? Yeah. It'd be a nice side story.
Right. So like there's no reason to root against that happening.
No, there's not.
Yeah, and I get it. A lot of you that comment on YouTube and a lot of you that tweet at me and a lot of you in the Discord really, really don't like Bryan Harsin. And that's okay. I'm not telling you to like him. But if you're listening to a daily Auburn show, you care about Auburn. And so it's still best for the program if Auburn wins.
Yes.
And in fact, if you're anti-Harsin, what happened Saturday may have been the best case scenario. You get a win, and also like it's pretty much a loss when you look at what Bryan Harsin's achieving. So we'll see what happens over the next few weeks, but I'm kind of feeling like it's either it's about to happen or we wait till the bye week.
Yeah, there's a part of me that thinks that it's imminent too and could happen, even though there's a win. We'll see what happens against LSU at night. Night game, big time atmosphere. Sounds strange to say it, but Auburn coming off a win emotionally could be at the same type of fever pitch. You know, this game, give Auburn Nation credit. They had almost 80,000 there. It's hard to get up for a game like this. But I think the LSU game will be a little bit more emotional. You'll have a little bit more of a crowd into it at nighttime and all that. Who knows? Who knows? Will TJ Finley be back? You know, I don't know.
Has there ever been a normal Auburn LSU game? Like, why not?
No, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But I'll be watching, and I'll be hoping that those kids that really laid it all on the line today and didn't quit when others were kind of quitting on them, including, in my opinion, some of the coaching staff, for them.
A body language standpoint, like
body language. Did you see the picture of the field goal attempt, the famous viral pic that's going around real quick of when Missouri was about to kick the field goal? There were special teams players and coaches, and everyone was huddled up on the field with Auburn, and Harsin was on the sideline with his back turned.
Yeah.
His body language. I mean, again, he may have already said something to the team, but the body language there seems to be mailing it in.
Yeah. I hate it.
I do too. It is what it is, brother.
Yeah. Just watching it, like I felt sad, Darrell. I felt sad watching it.
I did too. Yeah.
It really wasn't about winning or losing. And like normally in those situations, like we would see Auburn struggle offensively in the Gus era for a little bit. And like there would be frustrations or anger. And, you know, I think there was some of that in Mercer and San Jose State and even Penn State this year. But what happened Saturday, like I just felt sadness and I hated it. I hated it so much. And so you just see all these other programs, like you see Bo killing it at Oregon, and you see, like we mentioned, Tennessee, and even like with Florida, with them hiring Napier, like there's still hope. There's still hope there. It's just like, I don't know. There needs to be hope at Auburn. And so hopefully stuff happens.
It might be coming. It might be coming soon. Everyone just needs to stay positive because hope and change and things. Auburn is bigger than any one coach or any one controversy, and it'll be back.
That's right. And Aubie reminded us that the basketball's coming up because he wore a basketball jersey most of the second half, which checks out. So, Darrell, thank you so much for your time as always, brother. We'll talk next week.
All right. Have a great Sunday, brother.
That is Darrell Dapprich. I'm Zac Blackerby. You can read all of our written work at auburndaily.com. And we will see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Auburn.